So, I go from this kid just traveling and having a good time and living a pretty amazing life. I mean, even looking back now, it was pretty amazing life. So we go from that to building a church and building families and, doing some great things, making good money in IT, to break screech, to losing my son in a house fire because I started dating this girl who got upset at me one evening and all of my children were home and she set my bed on fire.
Hello, Carrollton, Texas. In today's news, there is a 2-year-old trapped inside a house fire. The fire was started by the father's girlfriend who set the father's bed on fire while he was sleeping. The father managed to rescue 4 of the 5 children who were inside. As it remains, there is still a toddler trapped inside the home. There are firefighters and first responders on the scene. I don't know how this is gonna turn out. We will keep you posted on the latest as the story develops. Reporting for Good News 1, I'm Sherry Jones.
Hello everybody, my name is Christian Smalls. I am an overcomer. I've overcome some situations in life that I want to share with you. I want to just kind of give you some tips on how I was able to make it through some of those events. Spiritually, some of the encounters that I had to endure to be able to make it through different states of mind and different levels of temptation that presented itself because I was at such a low state and such a hurt place in my life that I kind of didn't know which way was up. There are different ways to fight at different levels of spirituality, and some of those are learned in the process. Some of those are created minute by minute, it could be, and then some are just divinely given to you by God, and you can, if you position yourself properly, you can hear his voice very clear, and get direction very quickly and move through situations much faster. So what I'm going to do is try to break down the different situations that happen and then break down the different scenarios or the different solutions that I use to move through each situation successfully. The situations I'm referring to is back in 2000. I lost a very influential man in my life, my grandfather, Bishop William Jones. And my grandfather wasn't just a grandfather, like he was a grandfather that was also a father, because my father wasn't present in the local city. So my grandfather, and I had some great uncles, God bless you uncles if you're watching this, to really mentor me. But I lost my grandfather in 2000. And then we lost my grandmother, of course, was the first lady of the church, Dr. Pearl Jones, God rest her soul. And fast forward to 2010, I lost a 2-year-old son in a house fire. And in 2010 as well, I lost my mother, which was about a month after I lost my son. And then about a month after that, we lost my mom's sister, which was another very influential person in the family. So we lost quite a few people in a very short amount of time. And I had to move through all of those tragic situations as a single father with 3 kids, a total of 5, but 3 were living with me at the time, managing a full-time corporate job as well as small businesses on the side and a marriage. So I want to just kind of break each one of them down and show you what I've learned, how I was able to move through it, and hopefully it will be helpful to those of you that are watching. I get a lot of the times, how did you pull through it? And a lot of people have been positioned in life where it's been very difficult for them to just pull through something. I mean, a lot of people who go through tragic situations such as a death in the family or someone getting murdered, which it's still a death, but it's a little different. It's a little more complicated to deal with, all the way up to molestation, rape, and just, severe medical illnesses or mental illnesses. So I've met and dealt with a lot of people. Just to give you my resume, at 17 years old, I was licensed a minister in our church by my Bishop, William Jones. And it was something I had always wanted to do, like ever since I was 10 or 11 years old. I'd watch my grandfather, have these services and bring in these great preachers. And all of these preachers would come in with a power, with an anointing that would destroy any yokes, that would heal any sick person, it would cleanse the room. It would literally cleanse the room. And I grew up seeing this, and people laying on hands to heal a person or praying for them, and the problem completely goes away and they never had to deal with it again. So at a young age, I positioned my mind and my life so that I could be used by God. And that was kind of my whole, even right now, my reason for being is because I want to be used by God at a level that's impactful and at a level that changes the trajectory of not only my life, but the generations to come after me. So at 13, I started playing the drums into the church and started reading my Bible a lot. And by the time I was 17 years old, I was a licensed minister. And I took a good look at my life and where I was going and what I was doing and where I wanted to be. And I met a beautiful young lady, and we got married, and she was also in the ministry as well. And we had 3 beautiful children out of the marriage, and we're pursuing ministry really, really well. Right? I got a nice corporate job, so I was working in IT as a information technology specialist, and we were raising kids and seeing the glory of the Lord. Lots of blessings. And I moved through, different stages of ministry where I was, I teach small 5-minute messages all the way up to I was filling in for my grandfather once he got sick and was bedridden, which was in my house, in my life, that was a great honor to step in such a great man's shoes to fill it for 5 seconds. But in this case, it was a lot longer. It was a very interesting message too, because I was young and I wasn't very long-winded as a preacher. So I would do things like, the pastor would give me 30 minutes to speak, and I'd give him about 10 minutes of those back. So needless to say, I wasn't shy, but I wasn't very long-winded either. It's just kind of like, I like to get the point across, cut to the chase and not make it difficult for everybody. So moving through my 20s, I spent a lot of time just in the ministry, digging into the Bible, preaching a lot of different places, and studied some very, very, very amazing history about not only the Bible, but God himself, humanity itself, the Black culture itself, and other cultures as well. Because I've always wanted to be a more balanced, more well-rounded person versus specifically being able to talk about one subject and that's it. So you'll notice as we go through these series, you are going to see a lot of different stages of Christian Smalls. You'll see a lot of, you'll see some different sides of me. I'll peel back some layers and we'll have some fun. But moving through my 20s, like I said, I attended church regularly, ministered as often as I could, studied a lot of text, really seen and experienced the power of God to a point where I wanted more. I wanted to, I don't know, I felt like I'd reached a certain plateau, and you know, you're laying hands on people and you're praying and you're you know, doing everything by the book. I remember looking at my brother one day, and we started a lawn service, and we were out mowing the lawn one day, and he at the time was he was a minister as well. I think he was more moving towards pastor at that point because my grandfather had got ill. And so as we moved through these situations, you know, I asked him what.
Filled the night dark and deep. Lost the sun in the fire's cruel sweep. But he held on tight, didn't lose his way. Faith and love showed him a brighter day. Ashes to dust, he knelt down to pray. Through the tears he found words to say with a heart. Spirit, come and fill this place. I need your light, I need your grace. Guide my heart and show me.
What do you do when you kind of covering all of the basics? And he looked at me and he said, huh? So what do you do when you're covering all the basics? Like, I pray every day, all the time. I fast, you know, I even fast. I took 24 hours out of the day and said that if 10% is tithe to God, I'm gonna tithe that 10% every day. So that's 2 hours and 40 minutes I would fast. So I was fasting and I was praying, and, you know, we were preaching, and, you know, we had this team called Sons of Thunder, and Sunday mornings we would rip them up. We would go in and, you know, consecrate ourselves the night before and make sure that we were, you know, 100% into the Spirit of God and had removed all self, and we'd give some just amazing messages. Messages where we would come out and look at ourselves and just be like, did that just happen? Like, God just really showed up and showed out today. And it was a great time. We were having a great time in the Lord, great time in ministry. And fast forward to 2000, when my grandfather dies, we eventually took over the church. Me and my brother just had some new innovative ideas and different ways to take the church. And my mom was the first lady of the church at the time, and or the secretary, I guess you could say, because she did pretty much everything a first lady would as well. But so she supported us, and we took the church, and we went from about probably 150 members to about 650 members in Dallas, Texas. And we're having a great time, like just really listen to the Lord. And we hired some, you know, great musicians that came in and had a nice big choir of about, 10, 12, you know, singers. And it was a good time. It was a really good time in life. And yes, we moved through a lot of different situations and a lot of trials and a lot of adversities. And none of which I may bring up here because they were just kind of the small foxes that didn't destroy the vine, but it was the kind of the small trials that just help build you. So you can't be upset about when those happen. You have to just kind of tuck your head down and go and make sure that you're in the will of God, and that you're slow to anger, and that, you know, you're following the leading of the Spirit, as well as moving towards purpose, you know, and making sure that you're not just doing things randomly, but we're doing things to get closer to our purpose, to gain more clarity, more knowledge, more power, more insight, to be able to take on the next challenge that's coming. So as far as a lot of those issues that happen, you know, we probably won't discuss some of those, but I would like to discuss the larger issues. So we fast forward years later. I was getting a divorce. And I started dating someone who I didn't know very long. When you've been married for a while, you kind of feel like, I'm free. I've got a divorce. I'm ready to go. And I don't know about some of you, but if you've ever experienced divorce before, towards the end, it could get really ugly. It get really messy. And you just kind of look for someone to be able to talk to that will just listen, that'll just talk. And that'll just allow you to talk. So it took some time for me to realize that I was probably a little too anxious in my movement. But I started dating someone and it went really bad really quickly. And that's where life all changed. So I go from this glorious, raised in the suburbs, moved around a bunch of cities and states because my grandfather had a really large business and he would get bought out, and when he would sell, he would move to a different state, whether it was because of a non-compete clause or he just wanted to get the family up and move into a different direction. So he had 5 kids, 17 grandkids, and we would move to various different states. Starting out in I think we started in Dallas and went to Chicago and Wyoming and Detroit and Kansas and Denver and back to Texas again. So we moved around a lot. I personally was born in Kansas City. Woo woo, all my Kansas City fans out there. Let's go Mahomes. So yes, born in Kansas City. I was able to see a lot as a kid and see a lot of different states as a kid and live in a lot of different places as a kid. And it was great. I don't have bad childhood stories. I don't have the typical black male coming from a low income area. My family did well. I had a couple family members who had maids at their homes to help them clean, because we were always, as a family, on the go, either at church, doing church business or doing, family business. So it kept everybody very busy, and it kept the environment very stable. We learned a lot as kids. I mean, we did things as children that I don't even see adults doing right now. But it made for a very nice environment, a very loving environment, a very warm environment, a very spiritual environment. I remember there was no, what we called secular music in our home. No one could play secular music at all, ever. So everything that was played was either gospel music, or a lot of singers in my family. Love y'all. You are. Somebody would sing, or we'd have 2 or 3 people singing. Or my grandmother had an organ and a piano, so there was always something to do, right? And we didn't even watch what they call the television. My grandmother would call it the television. So we would, have limited time in front of the TV, except me, because I was almost like the kid in a bubble. I had asthma as a child, so I didn't have the, flexibility of just going outside when I wanted to, or, just being able to play with the other kids, because
Smoke filled the night, dark and deep. Lost the sun in the fire's cruel sweep, but he held on tight, didn't lose his way. Faith and love showed him a brighter day. Ashes to dust, he knelt down to pray. Through the tears he found words to say with a heart. Spirit, come and fill this place. I need your light, I need your grace. Guide my heart and show me.
Because I had asthma, so I was either on a pump or on a nebulizer or sitting real close to mom, because nobody knew what was going to happen when. So I can't say that I got out much and played, which, allowed me to become a pretty successful fat boy. Because mom gave me all the good food. I played drums in church, so after church they would have those, nice meals, and as soon as I walked into the back, hey, we have your plate ready. And it was always like a platter. It wasn't a plate. Like my mom would always give us nice big platters, and me and my brother, we would just go to the town. I love you, bro. I know you remember those days. So we'd have a good time. So, I go from this kid, this traveling and having a good time and living a pretty amazing life. I mean, even looking back now, it was pretty amazing life. So we go from that to building a church and building families and, doing some great things, making good money in IT, to break screech, to losing my son in a house fire because I started dating this girl who got upset at me one evening, and all of my children were home, and she set my bed on fire. And life completely changed for me. Everything I knew, everything I did, everything I learned in church, everything my parents taught me was out the door. And when I say out the door, it wasn't out the door like I was trying to apply it and it wasn't working, or I was trying to do things that didn't work. It was out the door because I couldn't remember. And I had a lot. I had everything that I had before, minus the house. I lost my house. I lost all my children's stuff. I lost all childhood memories, stuff that I had or that they had. And life got rough. It got rough because I didn't have anything to go off of. I had no solutions. I had no experience. I had no anything. And I kind of paused for a minute, and just in life, in general, I had to kind of take a step back and reevaluate how I was gonna move, how I was gonna do things, how I was gonna live, how I was gonna explain this to my children.